This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back, everyone. I am Rob McConnell, and yep, we're still coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the X-Zone Broadcast Network Talk Stream Live. Let me see, Radio X throughout Europe, and broadcast affiliates and networks right around this great big world of ours. If you'd like to check us out online on all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV, our main website is xzoneradiotv.com. And to find out what other programming we have available for you, 724, 365, on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit www.xzbn.net. Everybody remembers the Untouchables. Remember Elliot Ness, who was played by Robert Stack, and then Kevin Costner played... No, it wasn't Kevin Costner, it was...
Yes, it was.
It was Kevin Costner, right.
Yes.
Who played Elliot Ness. Sean Connery played one of the detectives. And, of course, in most recent times, we have The Sopranos. And people seem to be, taken in by the Mafia, the Cosa Nostra. Look at Goodfellas, that movie with Robert De Niro and another bunch of great actors. Seem to capture the imagination of a lot of people, but what many people do not realize is that the Mafia is very real. The Cosa Nostra is very real. And my guest this hour is Danielle Simone, and we're going to be talking to Danielle, who is the author of two books. One book that is coming out in a couple of weeks, the Lufthansa Heist, and another book that's going to be coming out in the near future, The Pierre Hotel Affair. Now, he is a Mafia expert. He uses his experience and personal interaction with Henry Hill to discuss the course of events that led to the path his life took. He's going to be explaining to us if life would have been different for Henry if he had not been caught and arrested. The Mafia is real. And joining us now is a true Mafia historian and the co-author of the Lufthansa Heist, behind the $6 million cash haul that shook the world, with Henry Hill. And the upcoming The Pierre Hotel Affair is Danielle Simone. And Danielle, welcome back to the X-Zone. Great having you again with us.
It is my pleasure to be with you, Rob.
I remember after we aired your interview with us a couple of months ago, people were saying, well, geez, we thought that the Mafia, the Cosa Nostra, the Luciano family, and the Gambino family, these were all, made-up stories, part of the fake news. And you mean it's real? And I said, well, of course, you heard the interview. Why do people in today's society still think that the Mafia, the Cosa Nostra, aren't real?
In my opinion, Rob, primarily because of the way it's been glamorized in the media, in films, on television. You mentioned The Sopranos TV series a few minutes ago, and I think that subconsciously the public, because of that glamorization, views the mafia has some sort of a fantastical, non-fictionalized type of organization, but it is indeed very, very much real.
Is the actual structure of the organized crime families in reality the same way as we would have seen in The Godfather, where each family has their designated area, their boss, their soldiers, their associates, and so on?
Yes, it was precisely in that structure years ago, decades ago, to be more accurate, Rob. But as of recent, over the past 20 to 25 years, the organization, the mafia organization, as a huge, powerful entity that it was, is no longer. It's been fractured. It's been decapitated, and the remnants, members, have no guidance, no leadership, and are not really the loyal types that the mafia once enjoyed having as members.
All right, Danielle, please stand by. Great talking to you again. Exonation, Danielle Simone is our special guest. www.danielsimone.net. That's DanielSimone.net. We're talking about the Mafia this hour here in the X Zone, and we'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell. Don't go away.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
How would you like to be able to read other people's minds? Well, the next best thing is here. When you know how to read a person's name, you know how the person thinks, feels, and behaves. Each letter in our name holds a key to unlock our true essence. Our name contains both our gifts and challenges in this lifetime. Mnemology science discovers personality secrets hidden in the placement of the letters of our names, including the first and last impression people remember about us. Sharon shows us how to interpret the arrangement of letters as outlined in her book, Know the Name, Know the Person. Sharon Lynn Wyeth created mnemology science after 18 years of research and testing her theories, and has supported thousands of people around the world in understanding themselves and others better. You'll enjoy Sharon's unique teachings as she shares her system to learn the gifts behind your given birth name. Even if you don't like your birth name, there are jewels in this book. If you're thinking of changing your name, ready to name your child, or wanting to get along better with others, this is the book for you. If you'd like to improve your relationships and change your life for the better, get the book today, Know the Name, Know the Person, or visit www.knowthename.com. That's www.knowthename.com.
Take a step back in time and discover old Florida cuisine at Marsh Landing Restaurant in Fellsmere, Florida. Enjoy delicacies such as frog legs, gator tail, catfish, and swamp cabbage, or enjoy the more traditional cuisine such as hand-cut Angus steaks, ribs, and seafood. Join us for breakfast with a southern flair featuring sweet potato pancakes, biscuits and gravy, and much more. Planning a party? Marsh Landing's private dining rooms can accommodate groups from 8 to 80 people. While you visit, enjoy the historic pictures, artifacts, and stories that line the walls. Marsh Landing is truly a unique experience. Marsh Landing Restaurant, 44 North Broadway in historic downtown Fellsmere. or visit marshlandingrestaurant.com. Marsh Landing, Old Florida cuisine at its best.
If you're a seeker, don't miss the inspiring book Shamanic Awakening, Between the Dark and the Daylight. This remarkable work chronicles shamanic counselor and indigenously trained dream decoder Sandra Cochran's 35 years of experience with diverse wisdom keepers throughout the Americas. Sandy's initiations across the British Isles, Turkey, Greece, and Egypt, combined with her knowledge of symbology, psychology, and myth, influence her dream blog and workshops. Sandy offers private readings, sacred international journeys, a meditative CD, and her book, Shamanic Awakening, to encourage you as you navigate your earth walk and create a deeper connection to yourself. Find this and more at her website, starwalkervisions.com.
Welcome back, everyone. Daniel Simone is our special guest, and he is a true mafia historian. He's also an author. And Daniel, how did you get involved, or how did you gain the title of being a mafia historian?
I really can't answer that, Rob, in all honesty. I guess through the various interviews and television appearances that I've made over the past several years, I've evolved, I guess, by reason of association as a mafia historian. But in essence, I'm actually I'm trained as a novelist, an author, and I specialized in sensational crimes, primarily because of the public interest. It's a genre that the public cannot simply be satiated of, and this continuous interest, immense interest, that is the reason why I focused on this particular genre. And I enjoy it, in all honesty. I grew up in a neighborhood in Queens County, New York City, where it was infested with mafia gangsters and wannabes. And I sort of grew up watching this element evolve from a regimented, powerful organization to what is now, as I mentioned earlier, a fragmentized, disorganized entity that only has a few remaining members without any leadership or proper guidance.
Well, what happened to the mafia to become defragmented? What happened to the structure and the loyalty within the families? Was it law enforcement that crushed the mafia, or did the mafia self-implode?
Several reasons. It did self-implode in a certain sense, but also a smattering of aggressive U.S. attorneys, prosecutors, armed with the relatively new RICO statutes, known as the RICO law, aggressively went after the higher-ranking members of the New York City five families, and were able to decapitate each one of those families. Many of the members of the hierarchy of the mafia families were incarcerated for life without any possibility of parole. But then there was another reason. Competing factions have risen. For example, the Serbian, I won't call them the mafia because the only true mafia organization, the traditional mafia organization, is the Sicilian faction.
Right.
But the Serbians, for example, organized Serbian criminals infiltrated our shores here and began competing with the mafia. Albanian organized criminal factions, the Russians. So all of a sudden, several competing factions evolved, and the mafia was busy defending itself against these aggressive U.S. attorneys. And for all those reasons, all combined, it just began disintegrating.
Is there any truth to the rumor that in the late 60s, in the time of JFK that the Mafia was actually working with the FBI?
In fact, speaking of JFK, his father, Joe
Joseph,
Kennedy,
yeah.
had been in bed with a very famous Chicago boss. His name was Sam Giancana. Sam Giancana, as a favor to Joe Kennedy, ensured that JFK would win several primaries, and which in turn, eventually, those winnings of those 2 or 3 primaries that Sam Giancana orchestrated ensured JFK's path to the White House.
Wasn't there also a connection between the Mafia and the CIA when it came to events that were going on in Cuba?
Yes, the CIA had contracted Sam Giancana, the same mob boss I described a few seconds ago,
right,
to assassinate Castro. Several attempts were made, and of course they failed. And needless to say, the CIA retained its ties to Sam Giancana and his associates. But then, when Robert Kennedy, JFK's brother,
right,
as Attorney General, began aggressively going after Sam Giancana's associates, at that point, Sam Giancana turned to Joe Kennedy and said, "Hey, what's going on here? We ensured that your son would be in the White House, and now your other son, who was appointed Attorney General, is giving us a tremendous amount of grief and problems." And Joe Kennedy dismissed it as simply an image for the public that his sons were pretending to go after the mob. But in reality, Robert Kennedy was very much serious about destroying the Mafia. And ultimately, Sam Giancana, in collaboration with the CIA, the FBI director, the former FBI director, actually orchestrated the assassination of JFK.
Wow. So was Oswald the patsy? Was there a connection between Oswald, the CIA, or was Oswald set up to be the person who all this attention would be pointed to keep the Mafia as well as the other agencies that were involved or allegedly involved with the JFK assassination out of the picture?
Well, your term of calling Oswald a patsy is precisely what he was. Oswald was a fanatic, a political fanatic, pro-communism.
Right.
And when he was given the opportunity to assassinate Kennedy, he embraced that idea. And according to my findings, and I really delved into this in great depth, Oswald did not know that other shooters had been placed in the various areas of where the assassination actually took place. So as far as Oswald knew, he was the one who actually fired the fatal shot that killed JFK. But in reality, there were 2 other shooters in place, and the fatal bullet came from another area known as the grassy knoll.
Right.
Everyone has heard about the grassy knoll of that particular area. And in fact, there are videos, films I should say, that clearly evidence that the fatal bullet came from the front of the motorcade and not the rear of the motorcade where Oswald was positioned.
And of course, we're talking about the Zapruder film at this point.
Precisely,
yeah.
Rob, yes.
This had to be a conspiracy that went further than the CIA, further than the FBI, in order for this to be pulled off. For example, wasn't the Army Intelligence Division, who always used to go and get into the crowds and also work as protective agents for the president, weren't they told to stand down?
In a sense, yes. They were told to minimize the security. And in fact, J. Edgar Hoover, the former FBI director, had received intelligence bulletin that this assassination was in the planning, and he simply turned his back and instructed his subordinates to ignore the rumors as nothing more than empty rumors. So by ignoring what was developing, in essence, J. Edgar Hoover was one of the conspirators of the assassination. And the same applies with the former CIA director, who JFK had vowed to fire him and replace him.
Well, didn't JFK also want to dismantle the CIA?
Yes, he did. But before taking that drastic measure, his first move was to replace the then current CIA director.
With the director of the FBI being involved, the CIA being involved, would it be fair to say that President Johnson was also complicit into the conspiracy and the assassination of JFK?
There is no evidence, Rob, that President Johnson was complicit, but he was certainly glad that it happened.
Yeah.
Because there was no love between Lyndon Johnson and JFK, or even worse, between Lyndon Johnson and Robert Kennedy.
Do you think?
So
do you think that these type of events are still happening today, or with the implosion of the mafia and the disassociation with the different agencies, that something like the JFK assassination, with all the central players being very high in government as well as very high within the mafia, could that happen again?
I don't believe so, because, as you well said, the implosion of the mafia has taken away that power that it once had. It had long-reaching tentacles, powerful families scattered throughout the entire United States, in all the major metropolises. So today, that type of conspiracy, that type of act could never actually be carried out. Not to mention the fact that there really isn't anyone in leadership within the mafia who would have the capacity, the wherewithal to organize such a incredible assassination.
Is it possible that there is a mafia as we used to know it, but it's gone underground and it's working in nefarious ways where it can't be seen or can't be tracked by law enforcement?
I don't believe so. There is no evidence of that. Again, the few remaining remnants are on their last breath, like an extinct animal that is about to expire. So, no, I would not surmise that there is still an active organization with any sort of leadership or power.
Would we find the organization in Sicily still, in certain parts of Italy and Europe, or has this imploded right around the world?
In Sicily, it very much still exists. Yes, as a matter of fact, just about 2 months ago, there was a raid in Palermo, Sicily, where 6 or 7 top-ranked lieutenants were arrested and are currently under prosecution. But yes, to answer your question directly, indeed, it's still very much alive and powerful in Sicily.
If it's still alive in Sicily, and the mafia organization within the United States originally came from Sicily, is it possible then in the future that the mafia and the Cosa Nostra may decide to try and rebuild itself, try to reestablish itself in the United States?
I wouldn't think so, for the simple reason that those who are in power within those mafia organizations nestled in Sicily are fully aware and fully comprehend that the American law enforcement system is now too sophisticated and too well technologically equipped for them to carry on without prosecution, or ultimately without being again decapitated by the American FBI.
All right, stand by, Danielle. You and I have to take our break. We'll be back in a couple of minutes after the news. Exonation. Danielle Simone is our special guest, and he is a true mafia historian. He's also the author of the Lufthansa Heist and the Pierre Hotel Affair, and we're going to be talking about these books on the other side of the news when we come back. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and for more information about Danielle, visit his website, daniellesimone.net.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
There's a legend shared by many indigenous cultures of a time when the nations were cast to the four corners of the world. Each nation was given a body of sacred knowledge that held a different portion of the truth to preserve. True reality could not be known until all the nations reunited, combining the information. If a single one was missing, the world could not be reborn and darkness would prevail. The Science of Magic Radio is dedicated to reuniting the sacred knowledge. With the understanding, none of us has all the answers, but together we can open new perceptions and possibilities. Through our combined vision, the world can be reborn into a place where darkness no longer prevails. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic daily on the X Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net, or visit us at thescienceofmagic.net.
Gibbs A. Williams, Ph.D., is a practicing psychoanalyst, supervisor, researcher, and author in New York City. Much of his life has been dedicated to understanding nature and the uses of meaningful coincidences or synchronicities. His radical and original non-Jungian, non-mystical, non-magical theory of synchronicities illuminates much of the fog surrounding this challenging and perplexing topic. His ideas and manners are fresh, presented in a style that is both entertaining and highly informative. He is also an expert on crisis intervention, specially focused on violence reduction for the police and citizens, mastering anxiety, frustration, and stress without the use of medication, and effectively preventing and treating heroin addiction. Dr. Williams can be contacted at his email address at gwwilliamsny11@aol.com or visit his website at
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
True healing must address 4 levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, for us to live joyful and productive lives. We tend to treat 3 of the 4, leaving the spiritual languishing. If you're tired of the same dysfunctional patterns cropping up in your life, Soul Balancing is for you. Trixie Phelps, owner and founder of Soul Balancing, is a naturally gifted energy healer trained in numerous esoteric forms, including shamanism. Trixie has created a powerful modality that safely and effectively clears your energetic field. A soul balancing session can remove interference, heal trauma, and restore your hope. Contact Trixie for a life-changing long-distance session today. www.soulbalancing.world.
Welcome back, everyone. Danielle Simone is our guest. www.daniellesimone.net is his website. And before we get on to your books that I'm very interested in talking about, because once again, you know, the movie The Goodfellows certainly had the Lufthansa heist in it. How or why was the Mafia formed in Sicily?
Well, originally it was formed in order to feed some of the families whose husbands were not capable of providing a livelihood and raise their children. And so a group of the more sophisticated, the more audacious men of that region organized into an association, so to speak, an amalgamation, not originally intended to have been a criminal enterprise, and it slowly evolved into that when they were forced to fight the Mussolini regime, who did not want any organized amalgamations that could possibly become labor unions. And in fighting or disputing Mussolini's practices or policies, they slowly resorted to crime. And before you knew it, it evolved into, rather than being a benevolent association to help the needy, the poor, they became a huge criminal enterprise.
Wow. Do you think that the Mafia had anything to do with the disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa?
Very much so, absolutely. The Mafia definitely organized and carried out the murder and disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa. And again, there's a slew of evidence that points to that, which the authorities, for whatever reason, chose to ignore.
I guess the Mafia did some cleaning up for the authorities even then.
Yes, they did.
Gotcha.
Indeed, it was not uncommon for the CIA or the FBI to collaborate with the Mafia and have the Mafia do the dirty work that the government did not want to physically partake.
But why would the Mafia want to turn against Cuba when Havana was, basically built by the Mafia?
Well, that's an interesting topic, which I can clearly explain. Yes, the former dictator, prior to Castro, whose name escapes me right now.
Was it
Batista?
Batista?
Batista, yes. Batista was actually in partnership with Sam Giancana and some of Sam Giancana's associates, Johnny Rosselli being one of them. Johnny Rosselli controlled New Orleans.
Right.
As Sam Giancana controlled Chicago. And, of course, they were in partnership in hotel, casinos, condominium complexes, beach resorts in Cuba. And when Castro became a viable potential insurgent who could possibly overthrow Batista, naturally the CIA was involved in protecting Batista, and JFK had pledged that he would assist in what was known as the Bay of Pigs operation. The Bay of Pigs operation was intended to stop Castro from overthrowing Batista. The last minute, on the very last minute, on the 11th hour, JFK withdrew his support for the Bay of Pigs invasion, and all the individuals involved in the assault on Castro wound up, dying, and the operation was foiled. And for that reason, that was the last straw that ultimately broke Giancana's back, because as soon as Castro took over, he confiscated all of the American businesses that were jointly owned by the previous dictator Batista and Sam Giancana and his associates. And finally, they decided to teach JFK a lesson, and that was the ultimate motive for the assassination.
Let me throw this out to you, and I'm just listening to you and trying to put the missing pieces to history. Is it possible then that the mafia also had something to do with the Cuban Missile Crisis and the turning back of the Russians.
I did not see any evidence of that, or no involvement of the mafia in respect to that missile crisis. No, that was strictly a political issue between the American government and the then communist dictator
Khrushchev. Nikita Khrushchev.
Khrushchev, correct. Yeah. Thank you for the help. Yes.
My great pleasure.
No, but there was no involvement on the part of the mafia in respect to that.
All right, let's get into a topic that I love because I watched this on Goodfellas. Now, in the movie Goodfellas, they talk about the Lufthansa heist. How accurate was the part of the Lufthansa heist that we watched in the Goodfellas movie compared to the real McCoy?
Well, to be more accurate, Rob, the physical aspect of the robbery was never actually shown in the film Goodfellas. It was known, it was announced, it was heard on the radio
right.
news, but it was never actually shown. The details of organizing the heist were not mentioned or shown either. And then, of course, after the presumed robbery, they have a Christmas party, as you may recall, and that's when everyone turned up in fur coats and new Cadillacs, and that is when the character played by Robert De Niro became very angry because he wanted all of his cohorts to maintain a low profile, and then killings started to appear left and right without really explaining why and who was being killed. So the movie, as brilliant as it was, and it's so entertaining that I still watch it every time it's broadcast on television, but it was only a blurring snapshots of what actually happened, rather than demonstrating in details how the robbery had been organized, how it was carried out, and why 13 people were murdered after the robbery.
Can you give us a bit of insight?
Well, sure.
Okay.
The FBI, well, not the FBI, to be more accurate, the New York City Police Department immediately knew precisely who was involved. But they had no evidence. They had no proof. Jimmy Burke knew that the New York City Police Department detectives were aware that he had masterminded the robbery and were also aware who actually physically carried out the heist. And Jimmy Burke naturally decided to eliminate anyone who was remotely connected to the crime to ensure that no one would be in a position to testify against him. And there was another reason why Jimmy Burke did this spree of murders. When it was made known that the total haul amounted to nearly $6 million, naturally his partners demanded a greater share. And that was the second reason why Jimmy Burke made a wise business decision to eliminate all of them and keep most of the money to himself, which he did.
So where did they get the information about this vast amount of money that was coming into New York that was basically untraceable?
This was money that, American Express had contracted Lufthansa to transport U.S. dollars from Europe that American tourists would purchase, with which American tourists would purchase what was known then as traveler's checks. You may or may not recall. So that when you traveled abroad, you could go into an American Express office anywhere in Europe and purchase traveler's checks that were widely accepted throughout the continent. And Lufthansa had been contracted by American Express to transport all those U.S. dollars back from Europe. And that's how it actually began. And, of course, when immediately after the robbery, the Lufthansa administrators were not quite certain as to how much of this cash was missing. So immediately they announced publicly that the missing loot was approximately $1.5 million to $2 million. So Jimmy Burke, played by Robert De Niro in Goodfellas, took advantage of this and confirmed to his cohorts that yes, the haul amounted to approximately $2 million, and he divided that $2 million amongst his group. But then later, within several days, when the Lufthansa bookkeepers took a more accurate count of the money that had been stolen, Lufthansa announced that it was not $2 million that we lost, it was actually closer to $6 million. So now at this point, Jimmy Burke's associates were demanding a greater share. And that was the final reason that pushed Burke into deciding to eliminate everyone. And, of course, also to ensure that no one would be left with sour grapes who could possibly testify against them.
So they actually got away with the crime of the century.
He did get away with it. Yeah. Indeed, he did, yes.
Whatever happened to him?
For other reasons, that other crimes that he committed jointly with Henry Hill, and of course we all know that Henry Hill became an informant and testified against him in respect to those other crimes that the two of them had conspired in, and Jimmy Burke went to prison for those crimes that were unrelated to the Lufthansa robbery.
X-Zone Nation, Danielle Simone is our special guest. We're talking about his book right now, The Lufthansa Heist. Now, when is it going to be available for sale so our listeners can mark it on their calendar to make sure that they buy a copy, Danielle?
The Lufthansa Heist was available as of August of 2005, and the softcover was, in fact, published approximately 3 months ago. So at present, only the softcover is available.
Is it available online at Amazon.com or through your website?
Yes, it is. It's available on Amazon.com, and of course, I'd like to announce also that the book has been optioned by a Hollywood production company to be adapted to a full feature film for theaters, and we're hopeful that that will materialize eventually.
Hey, congratulations!
Thank you.
You and I have to take a short break, Danielle. When we come back, let's talk about your other book that is making I'm sure he's going to make a splash. The Pierre Hotel Affair. X-Zone Nation, Danielle Simone is our special guest. And if you'd like to find out more about Danielle, visit his website at www.daniellesimone.net. That's www.daniellesimone.net. The name of the book that we were talking about this segment, Lufthansa Heist, and is available online on his website, Amazon.com. In soft cover. Wow. Next, we're going to be talking about the Pierre Hotel Affair with Danielle Simone.
I would like to mention, if it's okay with you.
Sure, we've got about 30 seconds.
We're offering something unprecedented. We're offering an authentic autographed copy of the actual manuscripts that ultimately was produced into the book.
Wow. Well, let's tell our listeners how they can get a copy. Get that when we come back from this break.
Certainly.
All right, Danielle and I will return as the X-Zone continues from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? I'm Dr. Kimberly McGeorge, and on The Secret to Everything, we will merge the practical with open investigation into all realms of the mysterious. We will talk to cutting-edge alternative health practitioners, those who inspire and motivate you in business and life, and of course, we will share stories of the paranormal, conspiracy, and cryptozoology. You will transform because of the frequency I carry, the frequencies my guests carry. Life may never be the same after you listen to this program, for the secret to everything is for you, the listener, for those who desire more in every area of their lives and believe that it can still be found. Listen and discover thesecrettoeverything.com.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
Welcome back, everyone. Danielle Simone is our guest, www.daniellesimone.net. Now, tell us about the manuscript, the autographed manuscripts that you also have available.
Oh, yes. This is an unprecedented offer that we're making, and very, very limited. It's a very limited offer. That is, we're offering an authentic, autographed copy of the manuscript to the book, and it's autographed by Henry Hill and myself. So it's available to be purchased on my website, and as I mentioned, it's a very limited offer.
All righty. Tell us about your other book that is coming out, The Pierre Hotel Affair.
Yes, the title is The Pierre Hotel Affair, and my collaborator in this project is the sole surviving gunman of the robbery, which took place in 1971. 1972, at the famous New York City opulent Pierre Hotel, where kings and queens have been hosted. It's still the preferred hotel of American presidents and foreign dignitaries as well. And in 1972, 8 armed robbers took the entire hotel complex under siege for nearly 2.5 hours, and ransacked the hotel safe deposit boxes where the guests would store their valuables, jewelry and cash and so forth, and walked out of there with approximately $28 million in jewels and cash. And it's important to note that in 1972, $28 million was equivalent to approximately $250 million at present value.
Wow.
Yes. And no one was prosecuted for the crime. Nothing but a $800,000 necklace was recovered. And this one very, very expensive necklace, a diamond necklace, was recovered by the FBI and nothing more. And as I mentioned, no one was apprehended and convicted or even prosecuted for it. But several of the armed robbers wound up killing one another over disputes insofar as dividing their loot, so to speak.
So was that the big last heist?
Well, that was the last big unrecovered heist. There have been others of much, much greater quantity, but they were not cash robberies. They were primarily involving jewels and artwork, and all of them, without exception, the perpetrators were apprehended, and most of whatever they robbed was recovered by the authorities. But the Pierre Hotel robbery was the last of the unrecovered, losses in history.
That must have cost the insurance company quite a bit of money.
Not really.
No?
And there's a very peculiar reason why. Most of the victims, most of the guests who had lost valuables, either cash or expensive jewelry, denied that they lost anything because of fearing, consequences from the government. For example, how do you explain that you had a $1 million necklace in a safe deposit box? The next question would be, where did you get it from? Where did you get the money to purchase such an expensive item of luxury? Or some safe deposit boxes had in excess of $1 million in cash. And how would one explain to the government that they had $1 million in a safe deposit box, which in the United States it is against the law? So for those reasons, the losses were understated, and many of the victims denied that they had lost anything at all.
How can you deny it? Because they were breaking the law?
When the guests were questioned, Mr. Smith, did you lose anything from your safe deposit box? They would say, no, I had nothing in there. And that's how it ended.
Wow.
Curious, but true.
Tell us a bit about your other books, the other books that you've written.
Well, the other books I've written were two biographies of two prominent female actresses. But, of course, I'm not at liberty to disclose who they are because I was merely a ghostwriter. And a ghostwriter is exactly that, a writer who is never revealed to the public. But it entailed two prominent actresses from the early 90s. And, of course, my Lufthansa heist book is my first published book that I'm credited as the author, or co-author, I should say. And my second upcoming book, the Pierre Hotel robbery, is, of course, the second, which will be will be released in May of 2017.
So you've got quite a bit on the go, and with the option being put on for the movie. Any new books in the offing?
Yes. I just completed a manuscript based on the Charles Manson affair. And interestingly, this is the first project out of maybe 200 or 300 that have been written about Charles Manson. This is the very first book that Charles Manson himself collaborated in the development of the project and endorses the project completely. And I've had hours and hours of taped conversations with him that were very enlightening, and he was very helpful in helping me develop a new version of the Charles Manson affair, so to speak, a new revelation that has never before been publicized. In fact, it's based on my manuscript. A series of documentaries are in production right now as we're speaking by the Reels channel, REELZ. You might have heard of it, or perhaps your listeners may have heard of it. And these series of documentaries based on my manuscript will be broadcast, or at least will begin to be broadcast, in the early fall of this year.
Why do you think people are still attracted to these type of films, these type of TV shows?
I really don't know, and Charles Manson could not answer that question either. He cannot understand why the world has had such a fascination over his alleged crimes that to date remain in suspense as to whether he really had any involvement or not. But if you were to pose that same question to Charles Manson, he would say, I really don't know why the entire world has been so fascinated and so attracted and magnetized by the Charles Manson saga.
Is it possible that the reason is because he got away with murder?
Well, he didn't get away with it because he's in prison.
Yeah, he's in prison, but he wasn't executed.
He wasn't executed, but for the simple coincidence that a year after he had been convicted, while waiting on death row, the state of California abolished the death penalty, and his death sentence was commuted to life imprisonment. And, of course, he will most probably die in prison.
What a waste of the taxpayers' money.
Indeed it is, yes. And, of course, the actual killers who executed the physical aspect of the murders are also imprisoned, and there is very little doubt that they will ever be paroled. One of them, Susan Atkins, the most savage, brutal of the four killers, died of cancer about 2.5 years ago. But as far as whether Charles Manson himself had any implication or complicity in the murders, that has not yet been proven beyond reasonable doubt.
But wasn't he the leader, the cult leader?
He was a cult leader, but his intentions, according to him and according to the evidence that has been presented, his intentions were to guide a group of misguided young people, and nothing more. His intentions were not to be murderous or to go on a killing spree or to incite anyone to carry out a killing spree. And as matters stand to date, there is absolutely no material or even circumstantial evidence that will prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he, in fact, did motivate those four killers to kill the 5 or 6 people who were involved in that murder, in that series of murders.
Is he crazy? Is he mentally deranged? Is he mentally disturbed?
On some occasions, on some conversations I had with him, he would be somewhat incoherent. He would drift off from one topic to another incoherently. On other occasions, he was quite philosophical and quite on point. Is he crazy? I'll say that, and my opinion is not a qualified opinion, I'll say that he's probably a sociopath at the very least. But he never had his record, his arrest record, which entails approximately 38 arrests, were never involved any violence. All of his arrests entailed petty thievery, petty crimes, prostitution, car theft, but never, without exception, was he arrested for any related act of violence.
Is it possible that he may have? Is it possible that he may have done it, but was never caught?
But that's a possibility. But there is no evidence of it.
Hey, listen, you and I have to say so long for tonight, Danielle. Thanks so much for joining with us. Continued success, and I look forward to the next time you join us back here in the X Zone.
I would be delighted to be with you again.
Take care, my friend. Exonation, Danielle Simone has been our guest, www.daniellesimone.net. I'll be back on the other side of this break, here in the X Zone from our broadcast station, our broadcast center, I should say, in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada.